So let's go further on the higher inquiries. So we have many questions. Who am I? Okay. So going to the roots of the problems on the basis of the Vedic methodology. We have many questions like who am I? Where do we come from? What is this universe? What are the stars? Is there life on other planets? What is the purpose of the life? What is the purpose of our existence? And we have two things. One is the religion, another is the science. The religion is based on the faith, and the science is based on the observations. So when we are seeing about the history of the universe, it based on theory, experiment, and there are so many prone theories in the science. So is this reasonable? So one of the important theory that we have been all learning from the school days is the Big Bang theory. So what is the Big Bang theory states that from zero volume, there is an infinite density and infinite temperature. And in a mathematically also it is impossible. From a zero volume, how can there exist an infinite density and infinite temperature? And from such a singularity, a big mass has exploded. And because of that explosion, various universes has formed and many things in the space has formed and many things have fallen in order. So that's what the Big Bang theory says. So is this reasonable? And many people also say that the universe is created by chance. And they say there is no creator. The universe function on its own. Is this reasonable? So Sir Isaac Newton, he gave the planetary system model. So it so happened that while Newton was doing this planetary model, so one evening he just left all the models that he prepared in a room. And next day morning, when Newton woke up and he saw his laboratory room, he saw that all the places, all the planets fallen itself on place. And when one of his friends came to visit him and he asked Newton, how did you get this model? And Newton says that, it just happened on its own. And his friend was asking, hey, don't be, don't make fun. How can it just happen on its own? So then Newton was asking, so when we think that, the universe is functioning on its own, everything is on its own, why not the planetary system also could have happened on its own? So by chance, so Newton says, no, it doesn't happen by chance. So there is no chance. So this most beautiful system of the sun, planets, and comets could only proceed from the counsel of the domain of an intelligent and powerful being. So Newton was an atheist and he firmly believed that there was a superior power because of which all these luminary systems are fallen in the place and there is an intelligence behind the universe that is functioning. So this being governs all the things not as the soul of the world, but as Lord over all. And on the account of his dominion, he is to be called Lord God or universal ruler. Law of gravity, four laws of thermodynamics, and Titulus Bode's law of planetary position, Newton's law of motion, conservation laws, Boyle's law of gases, There's no lawmaker, isn't it? When we see all these laws, what do we understand? There is a lawmaker. Without the lawmaker, will there be these laws? Is it reasonable? Albert Einstein says that there is a perfect brain behind all the natural physical laws. So the great scientists like Newton and Einstein, they believe that the universe is functioning on a perfect brain behind these physical laws. So when we see an airplane, we know that somebody created the airplane. But when we see a vulture which is flying very high in a sky, so don't we understand that somebody must have created this vulture, giving all the skills to fly? So when there is a designer for an airplane, how can there be a no designer for a vulture? When there is a designer for the submarine, how can there be no designer for the dolphin? It has a perfect body to survive in the water. And when there is a designer of a beautiful painting, how can there be a no designer for a rose that we see naturally in the garden? So is this reasonable? So many theories. How blind is a watchmaker, icons of evolution, science and evidence. So there are so many theories. If you think strongly enough, you'll be forced by science to believe in God. So, and the other famous thing, the Darwin's evolution theory says that the life comes from chemicals. Can you prove it? Can scientists create a mosquito in their labs? If life comes from chemical, we should be able to create many living entities in the lab. Can scientists create an egg in their labs? Chicken is a better scientist than you. And a frog in a well philosophy. So let's just learn about this Dr. Frog philosophy. So once there was a frog who was living in a well, and he had a friend visiting from the sea. And the frog in the sea is telling the frog in the well that how big is the sea is. But the frog in the well could not understand. So he is asking the frog in the sea, how big is your place where you live? Is it 10 times bigger? Is it 100 times bigger? Or is it 1,000 times bigger? Or is it million times bigger? So he just cannot understand. A frog in a well cannot understand the depth and the breadth of the frog in the sea. So we are all like Dr. Frog, where we are trying to understand the universe with our teeny tiny brains, not understanding the expansion of the universe and how various things are put in the place and how everything is happening in an order. Just like a frog in the well, Dr. Frog, we are trying to come with our own theories and understanding to know about our existence, on how we are in this planet and what will be our future. So, even for a test tube baby, there is a living force that is needed. And we have a natural test tube baby when a mother conceives. So, what is life? Is it just a lump of chemicals? What is evolution? Does it just happen by chance? And about Big Bang Theory. So there are so many questions. No creator, no designer, no purpose of life. So who am I? So many questions we have in our mind. Who will answer all these questions? Spiritualism. People ask, can you show me the soul? Reincarnation. Is there really anybody can prove? Why there are so many religions? Why do bad things happen to good people? So to understand all these, we have to go through the Vedic knowledge, which is the Shabda Praman that we learned in the previous class. So there's this Vedic knowledge is the one which gives the answer to all these questions. So let's further ponder about the Vedas. So there are four Vedas. Initially, the Vedas was just one. But Vedavyas could predict that the intelligence of the living entity will not be short, as they'll be short-lived. So he thought that it is important for him to divide the Vedas into four parts. If he just gives the Vedas in one part, it will be very difficult for the living entity to understand. Manda Sumanda Matayor Manda Bhagya. In Kali Yuga, people are very less intelligent and they are very ill-lucked, misfortune. So he could predict, because the great saints, they could predict about the future. They know the past, they know the present, and they also know the future. So Vedavyas, initially all these shastras was only received by Shruti, only by hearing. There was nothing written in the scriptures. While the scriptures are just given 5,000 years back, one may know that how did the scriptures exist then? What happened before 10,000 years or before 1 lakh years? So before these 5,000 years, we were in different yuga. We were in Dwapar Yuga. Previously, we were in Treta Yuga and Satya Yuga. The people had sharp intelligence. So just by hearing once, they could register everything in their mind and they could just pass it on to others. But as the yuga is progressing, as the Kali is progressing, people intelligence have become very less, that it was very important for Vedavyas to write the scriptures, that too with organizing the scriptures into various parts so that we can understand easily. So the first Veda is the Rig Veda, which has 1017 hymns or 10,052 verses which praise the demigods. So Rig Veda is basically to praise the demigods or the gods. They are almost equal to gods, but they don't have the supreme power like the supreme personality of Godhead, whereas they are having particular power. For example, Lord Brahma is empowered with creation. Shiva is empowered with destruction. Saraswati Mata is empowered with education. And Lakshmi ji is empowered with wealth. So each and everyone are empowered with particular subjects. That's why they are called as demigods. They are almost equal to God, but Krishna is the supreme God. We will see all those things in the future classes. And Yajurveda, it consists of the formulas of sacrifices. So we see in various yugas, there are different types of ways in which we can obtain the Lord. In Satya Yuga, we obtain God through meditation. In Treta Yuga, it was mainly through sacrifices that we obtain the God. And in Dwapara Yuga, it is through the deity worship or temple worship. And in Kali Yuga, just by taking out the God's name, we can obtain the same result as one achieved in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, or Dwapara Yuga. So they mainly consist of the formula of the sacrifice. And then we have Sama Vedas. So these are the Vedas of incantations used in various ceremonies. And it contains 1549 verses. Incantations means that which flows words by words. Atharva Veda, they have spells and incantations, and they mainly focus on the rules of worshipping the planets, oblations, and sacrifice, etc. So different Vedas are used for different purposes, categorized into four categories. And next type of Vedic knowledge is from Upanishad. So Upanishad present the direction for continual spiritual progress of the individual. Like Vedas are mainly like a junction for us to obtain whatever we desire. Basically, every living entity in this world is here to fulfill their material desires. We have all taken birth in this world because of desires and because of our past karma. So what these Vedas do is they further help us to fulfill their desires, but in a dharmic way. in a karma kanda ways. So 99% of the Vedas deal with karma kanda. For example, if we want to do well in our studies, then we may be has to perform a particular type of sacrifices. If we want to do well in the business, we might have to perform a particular type of sacrifice. If somebody is sick, then they have to do some sacrifice for the sun god. If somebody wants wealth, maybe they may do some worship to goddess Lakshmi to please her. So like that, we do different types of sacrifices or the karma kanda process so that our desires gets fulfilled. So which is also okay because initially, by gradually fulfilling our desires, we are getting purified. So in the initial stages, the Vedas are fine, but they do not help us ultimately to come out of the process of the birth, death, and old age and disease. So Upanishads are those which are very close for us, or probably the first step for us in the spiritual realization. It helps us to understand what is the real purpose of our life. Who are we? Who is the Supreme God? And understanding the Sambandha Jnana. So that we have through Upanishad. And Gita is also called as Gita Upanishad. So Gita is also coming under the category of the Upanishad from Mahabharata. So they present the directions for continuous spiritual progress of the individual. It is considered the secret and confidential knowledge of reality. Upanishad means sit close to the spiritual master or guru to receive the spiritual wisdom. And there are total 108 Upanishads. So this question we might have when we are chanting in our japa, we chant 108 times. So why do we chant 108 times on the japa? It is because that we have 108 Upanishad. That's why we chant one japa is 108 times. Another reason why do we do 108 times is because there are 108 principal gopis. So we are taking their blessings. So that is also another reason why we are doing a japa 108 times to complete one round of the japa. And among the 108 Upanishad, there are 11 important Upanishad of Isha Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, Prasanna Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, Aitreya Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Brahat Aranya Upanishad, Shvetashvatara Upanishad, and Mandukya Upanishad. So these are the 11 important Upanishads. And what are the goal of Upanishads? They describe the three aspects of the absolute truth, namely the impersonal Brahman, the localized Paramatma, and the personality of Godhead. Okay, so to understand these three aspects of Brahman realization, let us take an example of the sun. If we take the sun, there are three aspects of the sun. One is the sunshine, another is the sun planet itself, another is the sun disk. So this sunshine can be compared to the impersonal Brahman. It is present everywhere. And then the localized Paramatma can be compared to the sun disk. And there is a sun planet itself, and there is a ruler of the sun planet. So that can be considered as a personality of Godhead. Another way of practical understanding of these three aspects of Brahman realization is, suppose we are waiting in a railway station for a train. So before the train comes, we are hearing the sound of the train at some distance. And while the train is coming near, we see the outer portion of the train. We see the windows, we see the wheels, and we see the various passengers and everywhere sitting from outside. But when you actually go inside the train, then we see the train in totality. So that is the personality of the Godhead. So Krishna is also realized in three ways. The first thing is he is realized through the impersonal Brahman. Like Krishna is compared himself to a Koti Surya, which means one sun we are not able to see during the summer, whereas Krishna is crores of sun. So while we try to see the God, he is so effulgent that we are not able to see him, whereas we will see only the effulgence. That's why we see that many people think that the goal of their life is to merge ourselves with the impersonal Brahman, because it is very difficult for us to see beyond the impersonal Brahman. And the next type of spiritualist, they meditate, they use Ashtanga yoga and yoga, and they try to see the God within their heart. As Krishna said, Sarvasya Chaham Hridisanni Vishnu Mattas Vritirjnana Vedesha Sarvair Ahameva Vedyo Vedanta Kritveda Videha Chaham. Krishna says that he is present in the heart of every living entity. So the next stage of spiritualists, they try to realize the God within their heart, and they try to meditate the God, the Lord in their heart. And the third type of spiritualist, which is the total understanding of the God as a personality of Godhead, where they see a God himself as a person and they have relation with him. They exchange rasas with him. They, as a son, as a friend, as a girlfriend, as a parent, and in the Shantarasa or in the form of the servant. So they are directly involved in having the relation with the God. So that is the perfect understanding of the Lord. So it's not that the impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma is not correct, but it is not a complete understanding of the God, whereas they remain the partial understanding of the God. When we understand God as an impersonal Brahman, that means we have only understood God to a certain extent, that we have not understood him completely. So the complete realization of the God is understanding that he is a personality of God himself. In Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, Matta parataram nanyat kinchin asti dhananjaya. Mayi sarvamidam proktam sutre maniganaiva. He says that he is the there's nobody who is more superior to him, and he is like a pearl which is threaded in a necklace. We see, when we see a pearl necklace, we don't see the thread, but without the thread, the necklace will not be in a place. So that's why, although we may not be able to see the Lord like the pearls that are threaded, but everything rests on him. So is it clear, this part of realization of the God, the three different realization? Hare Krishna. Can I go ahead?
Yes, Sanjay, yes.
So, and then we have Upavedas, which are the smaller composition attached to the four main Samhitas, like the Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva. And there are 18 principal branches of the Vedic knowledge, which according to Vishnu Puranas, we have four Vedas and the six Angas, which are the subsidiary portion of the Vedas. And we have Mimasha, which is based on theology, and we have Nyaya, the logic, and we have Dharma, the institutes of laws, and we have Puranas, which constitute the 14 principal knowledge. Apart from that, we have Ayurveda, the medicinal science, the Dhanur Veda, the science of archery, and Gandharva Veda, the science of music and drama, and Ardhashastram, the science of the government. So these are the Upavedas, which are the smaller composition of the Samhitas. And then we have the Vedanta Sutras. So these sutras are short, condensed bit of information used as a reminder for the spiritual master in his discussion on the Vedic philosophy with the student or disciple, because the Vedas are very, very elaborate. So when a spiritual master is discussing this with the disciple, he tried to present the condensed version of it. Vedanta means the end of the knowledge or the final conclusion of the Vedic philosophy. So the Vedanta Sutra is also called as the Brahma Sutra, Shariraka, Vyasa Sutra, Vedanta Darshana, Uttara Mimamsha, and Bhadranarayana Sutra. So Vyasadev and Bhadranarayan both are the same persons. So this is how the Vedanta Sutra. And then we have Smritis. Smritis means that which is remembered. Examples of Smritis are the epics such as Mahabharata, which consists of 1,10,000 verses, and Ramayana, which consists of 24,000 verses. And Bhagavad Gita contained within Mahabharata is also the Gita Upanishad, and it is in fact the essence of the Vedic literature. And apart from that, we also have the Puranas. So Puranas means they are the very ancient scriptures with very valuable knowledge. At the same time, they are more relevant in today's world also. Although they are uh, very ancient, which happened long, long time ago in the bygone ages, but the knowledge that we obtain from them is practically applicable in today's world also. So there are 18 Puranas that are divided according to the three modes, namely ignorance, passion, and goodness. So according to the nature of the people, so these Puranas are divided into three modes. So Linga Puran, Skanda Puran, Agni Puran, Matsya Puran, Kurma Puran, and Shiva Puran are related to Lord Shiva, who is in charge of the mode of ignorance. Brahma, Brahmanda, Brahma Vaivarta, Markandeya, Bhavishya, and Vamana Puranas are related to Lord Brahma, who is in charge of the mode of passion. Vishnu Puran, Bhagavat Mahapuran, Narad Puran, Garuda Puran, Padma Puran, and Varaha Puranas are related to Lord Vishnu, who is in charge of the mode of goodness. So basically, we have 18 Puranas, which even the Puranas are divided into three categories according to the modes. So among all the Puranas, Srimad Bhagavat Mahapuran is considered to be the mature fruit or the fully ripened sweet fruit of the Vedas. It says Nigama Kalpataro Galita Phalam Sukhamukat Amrita Dravya Samyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhurako Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of the Vedic literature. It is emanated from the lips of Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, the fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relished for all, including the liberated souls. So, of all the Puranas, Srimad Bhagavat Mahapuran is considered to be the most nectarian, or it is the ripened fruit of the Vedas. So, if we consider Vedas to be a tree which has a lot of branches, twigs, and leaves, what is the purpose of the tree? The purpose of the tree is to get the fruit. So, although we have so many Vedas, we have four branches of Vedas, and we have Upavedas, we have Smritis, and all the thing, but the essence of everything can be achieved by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam is a mature fruit of the Vedas and it's a ripened fruit. A fruit is actually very tastier when it is ripened, and it is even more tastier if it is bitten by the parrot. And Sukadeva Goswami is the parrot of Radharani itself. So that's why, because it is coming from the mouth of Sukadeva Goswami, Bhagavatam is very much relishable. So Srimad Bhagavatam has 18,000 slokas, and the Bhagavatam written by His Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada comes in 18 volumes with extensive commentary. And one should all take an advantage of this spiritual knowledge, which is very, very nectarian for us to read. So Srimad Bhagavatam is called the Amala Puran. It is the purest Puranas, the cream of the Vedic literature. It consists of 18,000 verses, and it is a natural commentary on the Vedanta, compiled by Vyasadeva, who is himself the author of the Vedanta Sutra. We previously saw, right, the Vedanta Sutra. So it so happened that Vyasadeva, in spite of composing all the Vedas, all the Puranas, and everything, he was still not very happy. He was sitting by the side of the river Ganges in a little morose mood. And Narad Muni, his spiritual master, happened to pass by, and he asked Vyasadeva, why are you little bit morose? Why are you not happy? Then Vyasadeva said, in spite of me giving so much of knowledge to the people, but whatever I have given, it is going to further entangle people in this world. It's not going to liberate them. Because even though the Vedas is in the stage of purification, but it takes a very, very long time, because it just helps people to fulfill their material propensity. Then Narad Muni said that, you have to write about the Lord Krishna. So you have to write about bhakti. That's the only thing which can uh, give liberation to the people detached from this material world. So Narad Muni instructed Vedavyas to write Srimad Bhagavatam. So unlike other Puranas or other Vedas, Srimad Bhagavatam does not talk about dharma, artha, kama, moksha, whereas it directly gives the love for Krishna. So, free from karmakanda rituals, each and every word of Srimad Bhagavatam glorifies Krishna by avoiding the reader the pure love for the God, which is the ultimate goal of life. So, although there are so many Vedas, there are Upavedas, there are many Upanishads, there are Smritis, and everything, but the aim of Vedas is to find out the Krishna, which Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita. Vedesha sarvair ahameva vedyo Vedanta kritveda videva chaham. So I am the compiler of the Vedas and I am the one who is behind all the Vedas. So then trying to study all these Vedas, which are very extensive with a very short period of time we have, the two things that we can rely is on two types of Krishna Kathas. One is Bhagavad Gita, which is spoken by Krishna to Arjuna, and other is Srimad Bhagavatam, which is spoken about Krishna. So by relying on these two scriptures in this Kali Yuga, especially, we can get sufficient knowledge to get ourselves out of the entanglement of this material world. Okay, so whatever we have studied so far is based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so as we said that the aim of all the Vedas is for us to understand the God, understand Krishna. So Krishna has many forms, yet he is available in each and every form. How can we understand that? We see the sun is present in one place, yet people in many places can still feel the sun rays everywhere. Suppose you're asking your friend who is living in Delhi, where is the sun? Your friend will be saying that the sun is on top of me. And the sun is on top of you also. At the same time, the sun is on top of your friend also. At the same time, you ask somebody who is living in Chennai, they will also say that the sun is on top of that person also. So, like the sun can be all pervasive, like that. Krishna can be present everywhere, although he is one, but he can be present himself in a multiple forms. He says in Brahma Samhita, Deeparchireva hi dashantara apyukpetya. Like a candle, like one candle lights up the other candle, yet the power of one candle does not come down because it has lit up the other candle. Likewise, Krishna is present in various forms. And it is also said in Brahma Samhita, Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Ista. So he is present in many different forms as Rama, Krishna, Varaha, Narsimha, Vamana, like that Krishna can be present in many different forms. And he is also called Advaitam. He is the original. At the same time, he is the oldest. Krishna says in Brahma Samhita, Advaita Arjuna Anadi Kala. He is the most oldest, yet he is the youngest. Although he is the oldest. So when we see Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, we see that Krishna is looking like a young man, about 25 years old. But Krishna, when he recited Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, he was already more than 100 years old. He was 120 years old. But still, he always looks young because Krishna's body is completely spiritual. He never gets old. He is the oldest, but he is ever youngest. And he says in Brahmaji narrates in Brahma Samhita, Vedeshu Durlabha Atma Bhakto. It is very difficult to understand Krishna by Vedas. However, my Atma Bhakta can understand me very easily. So that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Hare Krishna. I'll stop the presentation here. Any questions you have?